Welcome to Quietly Confident Introverts, the podcast that empowers introverted women leaders and entrepreneurs to overcome self doubt and build confidence to thrive. Together, we'll explore your unique strengths, help you create a presence in the marketplace, and build profitable, impactful businesses. It's time for introverted women to rise, and it starts right here. Let's dive in. Welcome back. How exciting to bring you another episode of The Quietly Confident Introvert. If you are an introverted woman in business or leadership who is seeking empowerment to build her confidence, to harness her introvert strengths, to make a difference in the world and fulfill your ambitions, you have come to the right podcast. And I've been enjoying bringing you the various episodes. Also, I've been enjoying interviewing guests for this podcast. How did I get so lucky? That is one question that I ask myself because I think once you find something that you enjoy, then it doesn't always feel like work, doesn't it? But I'm not going to lie and say I still don't struggle with feeling energized about it. However, I do enjoy bringing you the podcast. I enjoy sharing the videos of the podcast with you. And today's topic is going to be something I believe that you enjoy and I enjoy talking about. And it is titled Breaking the Mold, Redefining Success as an Introvert. So basically, I guess for most of us, success can be what we see. They say success leaves clues. So it can be what we see around us. And therefore, we might start defining success on those terms. As you get more and more self aware, as you get more and more into yourself, you begin to ask yourself, what does success really mean to me? What does it mean to be successful? How do I define success? But for me, I know that I have made so many mistakes on my journey, both in career and in entrepreneurship. I have learned so many lessons along the way. The thing that I'm good at is never wasting any of my experiences, whether they're good, whether they're bad. So those lessons, being human, making mistakes, learning from those mistakes, those lessons are things that I share on my podcast, share in my speeches, share in my trainings, share and mentor clients as well. So today, I want to talk about the fact that more recently I've been looking at shrinking back. I mean, shrinking back versus shrinking. So shrinking back is when you pull away from things you're supposed to be doing. But shrinking is looking at what really matters and getting down into the focus and the detail. So I'll be looking more at shrinking so that I don't get in a space where I'm shrinking back because of the pressure, because of the overwhelm, because of um, the expectations of people, which we all tend to fall into. Really, I would love to build a business that is aligned with who I am and the lifestyle that I want to build. Ever since I started the Visionary Introverted Woman brand, I have felt like a rebel with a cause. I know. And you're thinking, rebel? Yes, technically, I have a secret. I am a rebel at heart. I, as a child, I know that my parents, I always say, maybe my parents gave me the name Patience because they needed patience with me. So there is a rebellious side to all of us, and I own my rebellious side. But when it comes to the Visionary Introverted Woman brand, I have to say, I feel like a rebel with a cause. So my cause has been um, finding the introverted way of achieving success and answering the question, is it just only the way that I see it that feels exhausting to an introvert that is the right way and the only way? Or can we actually find that introvert way of doing things and feeling more energized by living the life that we want to live? And so the drive for that question makes me be inventive, creative, seek out answers, put myself in uncomfortable situations, then come out and ask myself, what would be the comfortable option for an introvert in this scenario. So based on that, that's why I titled this, instead of titling it Shrinking Back, because we don't want to shrink back. We want to achieve our ambitions. We want to go out there. And being an introvert and a woman does have that double-edged barrier, isn't it? And challenge, because sometimes it feels taboo for a woman to be talking about ambition. A man talks about ambition and, the woohoos come out, but a woman can feel like, oh, you're just trying to be bossy. You're just trying to take over things and you can't take over the world. But that's not what we want to focus on. We want to focus on how can you be more expansive, expressive, without conforming to the way that other people feel that you need to conform or do things in certain ways that are not natural, do not come naturally to you? How do you align to your own natural way of being? And that's what we want to look at when we talk about breaking the mold and redefining success as an introvert. So I've got some ideas and I want to share them with you today. The first one is being authentic. So I know, we talk about authenticity all the time. But one of the things is that when you think about it, when you think about a world where people are working about and not being their real selves, you want to be real. You want to be real. And sometimes real means raw. Yeah, I know. Um, but you have to also be wise. Well, one thing I did when I was much younger, I thought about what was always giving me headaches when I step out in the morning. And it was the fact that I had to go to work and put on a mask, pretend to be who I wasn't. That's the way I felt. Maybe people might have felt differently, but I felt that way. So I had to make a courageous journey after I started getting coaching to say, what you see is what you get. And that meant that I had to adapt integrity as part of my values. I didn't know that then, I know it now. And it means that sometimes that integrity leads me to lose things, lose opportunities, because people want you to pretend to be who you are not sometimes. You'll be surprised that that's the case. And sometimes when you show your true colors, not everybody wants to accept it. So, for example, people just can say, oh, introverts don't like socializing because they don't want to make the effort to get to know you, since you're quiet and your quietness means you might be mysterious and things like that. But you want to be authentic. So if you start to redefine success, you want to think about being authentic. You want to think about how you can play towards your natural tendencies as an introvert. And success to me is found in staying true to who you are, what you bring to the world, your interest, and your unique way of seeing the world. Now, sometimes that might be negative. So if you're not somebody who is working on yourself to improve the things in your life that are not right, that we all know deep down what is not right. So saying, oh, just accept me. When I talk about people accepting you or being your true self, what I mean is be your true refined self. So people don't want to meet your unrefined self sometimes. So you've got to not show that side of you. But the side of you that you have worked on, that that embraces others, that really brings value to the world, don't shrink back on showing that side of the world, of yourself. Be authentic about it. Be authentic about who you are. But in order to be able to be authentic, you have to think about the second part of it, which is number 2, which is alignment. You have to be aligned. And when I talked about shrinking, I said that shrinking is not about shrinking back, but about shrinking down to focus on what matters most. If you think that small things, so in the past, when people, I went for a coaching marketing coaching training once, and people were like, "Oh, what do you want?" And when I talked about what I want, it felt to them like it was smaller than they would expect. But when I went back home, I reflected on the fact that I have done a lot of work on understanding what I want. So if it looks small to you, that's coming from your perspective. It's not my perspective, because my perspective, I have worked on things and I know what I really want. And based on that, I want to align my actions, my activities to what I want. Because on the other side as well, there are a lot of things I've already achieved. And they do say that the enemy of the great is the good. So if you settle for just being good, you never aim for greatness. However, what is greatness to you? Is it numbers, or is it each individual person that you impact? And you've got to step aside and ask yourself that question. If you think about small as being not impactful, then maybe you need to think again. Think about the red ant. If one red ant bites you, believe me, you'll know it. If one red ant, you will know it. You will feel it. It will hurt. If one mosquito bites you, it can actually lead to malaria. You don't have to have multiple mosquitoes bite you. Just one can be enough to give you malaria. So when you think about viruses, you think about little things, you start to understand that small does not mean less impactful. It just means contained. It just means well focused. It just means knowing what you want. So success for introverts as well can involve cultivating smallness, but smallness with impact and with power. So that is where you are aligning to your values, you are aligning to who you are. One of my guests recently, we talked about values, and we said that many times when you tell people to put their values together, they will put large number of values. But the great work is in narrowing it down to your top three. And they say Brene Brown, the popular Brene Brown, who talks about daring greatly or dare to lead. Those are some of her great books. You know, she talks about how to you need to narrow down your values to your top three. And I cheated a bit. I narrowed down mine to my top six, but I split it into personal and business. So there's top three for personal, there's top three for business. And my top three for personal is faith, family, and freedom. And my top three for business is integrity, empowerment, and excellence. And this allows me to narrow my focus, to shrink down to focusing on these key things that bring things to place for me. And that then brings me to number three, which is association. So when you're shrinking down, sometimes for many introverts, not sometimes, generally, what I find is for many introverts, they have a small but very engaged circle of friends. That's not how people see you as very popular. You're not very popular if you don't have lots and lots of friends all over the place. Having maybe five friends that you hang out with all the time that are your inner circle, that doesn't look successful. But when you think about it deeply, who is the closest person to people like Oprah? She only has one friend. And many people have said that one closest friend is probably she's in a relationship with her. People have said all sorts of things because Oprah does not allow anybody else to come into her inner circle, just that lady. The rest come around and they are acquaintances, and she will blow kisses and do all sorts of things, but she keeps it small. She keeps it one to one part, and she's kept to her partner that she's had for years. He's not hogging the limelight or trying to be in the limelight. He supports her from behind the scenes. She's carved out her own way, and as we all know, she's an introvert. So she's carved out her own way. So when you look closely at many introverts, their association and their circle is usually their inner circle is not that big. But what it also does is it allows you to set boundaries. And within those boundaries, you are able to operate comfortably. You are able to operate with ease. You are able to be yourself. When you have boundaries, it allows you to say no thank you to things that don't align and yes please to things that align. Because sometimes we think of boundaries as keeping you in, but many times boundaries gives you freedom. It allows you freedom to actually do more of what you enjoy. The problem we have in the world is that when you are not blowing kisses around the place to the whole world and calling everybody your BFF, it feels like you're not popular. It feels like you're not aiming for the big success in the world. But when you think more, more people, more trouble sometimes is the case. It doesn't mean that you don't want to speak to large crowds of 60 million, 60,000 people, whatever numbers you want to speak to. It doesn't mean that you don't want to impact thousands of people. But one of the ways I see impact is that you can impact one person that goes along and impacts another two people. Those two people impact three people. When you look at it from that multiplication point of view, impacting one person can actually change the world very significantly. So, association, are you associating with the people who are aligned to your interest, who enhance and make your life more expansive? Because that's what we want. We want an expanded and enriched life that helps us to live well. And sometimes you might have to do the work that curate. You curate your associations, you curate where you go, you curate the things that you do. It is actually an extroversion bias to want constant socializing, constant meeting up. It doesn't always allow introverts to recharge. It doesn't allow introverts to tune into their already busy brains. I wanted to focus on that quite a bit. Number 4 is what I call the ascension. And when you talk about redefining success, you want to talk about how do you climb the ladder of success? How do you do that? So, climbing the ladder of success, quite simply to me, is developing courageous leadership. First, courageous leadership of self, where you are really looking closely at yourself and what you bring to the world, i.e., you want to know your strengths and play to your strengths. And as they say, when you're playing to your strengths, when you're operating in a place of strengths, the law of least effort applies. And so you have this fact that for you, it feels like you're waking up from your sleep and just doing it. And other people are making more effort. That's where you need to focus on because that's where you will really bring out value and make a difference. So, if you're focusing on your strengths, even on a personal or professional level, for example, when it comes to my personal relationships, I try to make people aware of my love language. And one thing I'm great at is I love learning other people's love language as well. That's an area of strength for me. And once I learn it, then I can adapt my style of giving to you based on your love language, based on your personality as well. Because when you say to some people during coaching, is one of the things that I learned during my coaching supervision and coaching exams when I wrote for my when I took the test for the accreditation. And it was one of the great feedbacks I took on board, which was my examiner, who I was then having to coach to get my accreditation, presented me with a scenario that I had to coach him through. Yes, I do coach men, I know, and it works very well. So I did pass, but when my feedback came back, one of the things he said was that he used the word think, and I kept saying feel during my questioning. Sometimes I was able to revert to think, but in general, he was more of a thinker than a feeler. And when I am trying to connect with him, asking him questions that include think are more important than me saying feel because I'm asking him in on the spot to tune into his feelings more, whereas he's in his head more, and that's where he would find the answers. Now, courageous leadership means that you will find out what people are like, why they are like the way they are. Then you communicate with them. You connect with them in a style that is aligned to who they are. So when you're climbing the success ladder, one, play to your strengths. Two, align and play and help other people play to their strengths. Because around you, you also want to surround yourself with people whose strengths are in the areas of your weakness. That way, you find yourself balancing things out. That means you might have to bring in extroverts who enjoy some of the things in the business world that you don't, and they can take care of those areas. That's the way that you find balance in your journey as you climb the ladder. The other thing to remember is that don't climb the ladder alone. This is something I learned while I was with the John Maxwell team, and it was very valuable. And John would say, or as I'm with the John Maxwell team, I've never left them, but John would say, if you feel lonely at the top, it's because you climbed all the way there all by yourself. So when you're climbing the success ladder, it's not an easy thing to do, especially if you're a lone ranger, lone wolf, like to do things on your own, which people condemn in the world, but there are people that just like to focus and do things on their own. That doesn't stop them from being good team players. It just means that when it comes to focused work, they rather just step away and do it on their own. And many introverts fall into that category. So he says if you go up the ladder on your own, you will that's when you be lonely. So you want to go up the ladder with other people. When you think about popular introverts like Bill Gates, he had partners, so he didn't just go up there on his own. Well, is an introvert. You have Oprah, and I've talked about her and having that partner in Gail, who is who looks like somebody who is more extroverted than herself, or maybe an introvert with a different set of strengths. So your ascension process up the ladder of success, you need to consider that carefully. And the final one that I want to share is your authority. How do you express authority? Quiet does not mean not talking. Quiet does not mean passive. So that's so important. So you can be quiet yet assertive. Although sometimes I've met some introverts and I'm thinking, oh, are they stubborn? Because they would not say anything, but they would not change. They would just be quiet. If you meet people like that, and I'm not like that, I would talk and I would express myself and try to change things through the conversation. But some people just wouldn't talk and they wouldn't engage in conversation, but they wouldn't make a shift and make a move. I wouldn't say that that's the right way. You engage in dialogue and conversation. That to me is the win win approach because you want to get to a place of understanding. And people are not psychic, they cannot read your mind to know, understand truly what is really going on. You have to be willing to engage in conversation and dialogue. When you want to show authority, when you want to bring out your authoritative side, you have to be willing to stand on your convictions, share your convictions with other people, and stand out because of how you share your conviction. That's bringing out your authority. That's also executive presence, showing that you are not hiding. You are showing what you believe. You are showing why you believe it, and you're also willing to step back and go, "I was wrong. I didn't get it right," and that's fine. As an introvert, your authority can also come from how well you have listened and therefore play back what you have listened to people. And they would be like, yeah, this person is listening to me. And therefore, they can actually be allowed. People will give you permission to influence them because you listen to them. My, again, Maxwell always says, give a heart before you ask for a hand. So authority is not about lording it over people, is about showing that strength and control and ability to influence outcomes for yourself and for others. To me, that's what it means. So you need to find your unique leadership style and embrace it and lean to it and make valuable contributions from that space of understanding your leadership strengths and your leadership style. And so that is some of the things that I want to share with you. How do you redefine success? So, redefining success, if we're going to summarize, is first and foremost, make sure that you are authentic. Being authentic is about saying to yourself, I want to live a life that says, what you see is what you get. And that involves finding your values and making sure that you're living in accordance with them. And that then brings me to the alignment piece. So, alignment is understanding the size of what you want to accomplish and then understanding the price that you're willing to pay and align this to your values, to your strengths, and you have a winning situation. Number three is association. Who do you want to be in your inner circle? And if you want to keep your inner circle small, all well and good. Keep it small. Curate who is in your inner circle. Ascension. Remember that you don't want to climb the ladder to the top on your own. Make sure that you climb the ladder to the top with other people. That way, you are not lonely at the top. And the final one is authority, leadership, courageous leadership. No, it's not about lording it over people. It's about understanding your leadership strength, your leadership style, and how you impact and make a difference in the world. Making sure that you find the balance in pursuing your goals and achieving your ambitions is always key when it comes to redefining success. Most importantly, you want to be able to take care of what matters most to you. And for many of us, health is wealth. So when you're sacrificing something that you cannot always buy or replace, which is health, to achieve wealth and success, ask yourself, is it truly worth it? So, in redefining success, look at your spirit, your soul, your body. Finding the right balance in how you handle things is what I would suggest, so that you understand, you will be able to appreciate life's simple pleasures. You'll be able to avoid burnout, but you also feel successful, be successful, and also find fulfillment in doing the things that you love. It needs effort, it needs energy. You won't just get there just like that. But it also needs stepping away from the noise and the what I call the unconscious conditioning that we have in terms of defining success one way when we can decide what success looks like for us. So that's it. Coming to the end of this session, I just wanted to leave you with some nice quote, like we usually do, to share the quote with you so that you can remember some of these things. And today, the quote I have is from one of my favorite people, Steve Covey. And he says this: it's incredibly easy to get caught up in an activity trap in the busyness of life, to work harder and harder at climbing the ladder of success, only to discover it's leaning against the wrong wall. It is possible to be busy, very busy, without being very effective. So, I guess the question from this quote is: your ladder of success leaning up against the right wall? So, thank you for joining me again on this wonderful, beautiful episode, which we've titled Breaking the Mold, Redefining Success as an Introvert. And if you're ready to really unlock what it means to be successful on your own terms, if you're looking to align to your introvert strengths, build confidence, and move ahead on your success ladder in an aligned way, building your own success pathway on your own terms, then I would love to hear from you. I would love to connect with you. Also, please make sure to check out the notes if you have not yet taken my navigating overwhelm in business like a pro quiz. I would love you to take it because I think it will help you with what we're talking about here, which is about focusing on making the main thing that you need to be working on to achieve the success that you desire Until next time, stay quietly introverted. Thank you for listening and God bless. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Quietly Confident Introverts. If you found today's discussion valuable, please subscribe, rate, review, and share the podcast with others. You can also connect with me, Patience Ogunbona, at The Visionary Introverted Woman. Until next time, stay confidently introverted.